Today, we are diving headfirst into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, a very strange corner of the internet. We're talking about a series of documents known as the Alta Reports, which claim to do something, well, something pretty extraordinary.
Imagine this for a second. What if you could somehow tap into the subconscious, the unfiltered emotional chatter of billions of people online? And what if you could use that raw data to actually forecast major global events? Well, that's the wild premise behind these Alta reports. And trust me, it leads to some truly mind-bending predictions. So yeah, let's get into it. So here's the roadmap. First, we're going to break down the strange method they claim to use. Then we'll see what it supposedly predicted for our finances, our planet, and our society. And we're going to finish on the absolute fringe with a category that you have to hear it to believe it.
Okay, so before we jump into the really wild predictions, we've got to understand the unique method the reports claim to use. Because this isn't about polls or expert opinions or anything like that. It's all about language.
The whole thing is built on this idea called predictive linguistics. Now, the key here, and this is super important, is that it completely ignores what people are consciously saying. This system isn't reading your blog post for your opinion on politics, no. Instead, it's digging deeper, analyzing the emotional weight of the words people use without even thinking about it. It's like it's trying to tap into the web's collective gut feeling. It's about the vibe, not the statement.
Right, so to make any sense of all this raw emotional data, the reports had to organize it. And they did that using something they call entities. The easiest way to think about these is like they're giant thematic buckets. They're the main chapters in this weird book about the future, where all the predictive language gets sorted.
And these are the four big ones we're going to be digging into. You've got markets, pretty straightforward, that's all things financial. Terra is the planet itself, weather, geology, the whole shebang. Global pop is all about us, humanity, and our social trends. And then you have space goat farts. And yes, that is its real name. It's the wild card bucket for everything from UFOs to stuff the government denies. It's a lot.
All right, let's get into the first set of predictions and see how this method plays out, starting with that markets entity. The reports painted a picture of a really dramatic and, frankly, a pretty chaotic economic reset.
And they really didn't pull any punches. The language the system was picking up pointed to a coming shift that was described as nothing less than violent, specifically in how it would hit the stability of our core banking system. So we're not talking about a minor correction here. This is a full-blown, predicted upheaval.
The reports even laid out a kind of domino effect for this collapse. It all kicks off with a credit freeze, which then triggers cascading closures of businesses. From there, it spirals into a period of hyperinflation. And as that traditional system starts to buckle, precious metals get a whole new status, which ultimately leads to what the reports bluntly called the death of the dollar as the world's reserve currency.
And this right here is one of the most stunning financial predictions from the reports. Historically, as you can see, gold has always been way more expensive than silver. But the reports forecast a total collapse of that relationship, with the two metals reaching for parity. That means a 1-to-1 value. A shift like that would turn the entire precious metals market, and financial history really, completely on its head.
So if the old system supposedly fails, where does all that value go? Well, the reports pointed to three key places. First, gold, the classic safe haven in a storm. Then silver, with predicted demand so insane it would completely overwhelm the retail system. And finally, Bitcoin, which the data showed was shifting from just a niche point of influence into something like pure unleashed energy in the financial world.
Okay, so the financial world is predicted to be in absolute turmoil. But according to the reports, this chaos isn't just happening on paper. The linguistic data was also screaming about massive, dramatic changes for the planet itself. This is the entity they called Terra.
The reports forecast something they called a wilding year. And this was defined by just intense, contradictory weather extremes all happening at the same time. The data was picking up language about new glaciers forming in some places, while other parts of the world were going to be dealing with blazing summer heat and, quote, forest fires from hell. It's a picture of a planet under so much stress, it's literally pulling itself in opposite directions.
Now, holding up a lot of these physical predictions is a truly bizarre core concept the reports claim to have found in the data.
and it's summed up in 2 words: expandoplanet. The theory, and yeah, it's as wild as it sounds, is that the Earth itself is physically getting bigger, and that this expansion is the root cause for a lot of the coming Earth changes.
And the predicted consequences of an expanding planet? They're just as strange. You get widespread sinkholes as the ground gives way. Then you get the reverse of a sinkhole, which the reports call pop-ups, where pillars of Earth are literally shoved skyward. This constant ground movement and the changes to atmospheric pressure would create new wind patterns and cause constant infrastructure failure, like water pipes just busting on a massive scale.
So, just to recap, we've got a financial collapse and a planet in physical turmoil. What on earth does that do to people? Well, let's move to that global pop entity and see how this all builds into predictions of a complete social reset. This single image from the reports is just so powerful because it perfectly captures the strangeness of their predicted social breakdown. This isn't your typical protest. It's something different. It's a generational and systemic clash. Young military and police in the streets fighting with aged and infirm retirees, probably fighting over the very pension systems that were supposed to take care of them.
So what drives this social great leveling? According to the reports, it's a terrifying domino effect. First, the pension funds collapse. They just disappear. Then, the basic delivery systems for goods fails, which leads to widespread food scarcity. This fuels this powerful idea of getting personal revenge against the banksters, and the whole thing culminates in a total, absolute failure of confidence in government itself. All right, we've talked about money, the Earth, society. Now we have to talk about the absolute weirdest part of the ALTA reports. The entity known, and again, I promise I'm not making this up, as space goat farts.
The whole point of this entity is that it's the ultimate catch-all bin. Any linguistic data that pointed to things that were officially denied, completely unknown, or just wildly speculative, it got filed right here. This is where the predictions go from forecasting trends to exploring the absolute bleeding fringe of reality.
And what a fringe it is. I mean, the linguistic data in this bucket pointed to concepts like a secret breakaway civilization, a runaway time accident, whispers of alien wars, even things called planetary farts and unexplained global booms. The wild part is that the data apparently gave all these bizarre ideas almost equal weight. It's like a snapshot of humanity's most powerful and strangest unconscious fears and speculations.
But as we come to the end here, it's really essential to circle all the way back to the core idea. The ALTA reports never actually claimed these things would happen, for sure. They claimed these were linguistic echoes, the shadow of a potential future being cast backwards in time and showing up in the emotional choices we all make with our words every single day.
And really, that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question. If our collective unconscious is projecting these ideas into our language, is it just reflecting a future that's already on its way? Or does the act of speaking these ideas into existence actually help create that future? In other words, are we just decoding a dream? Or are we busy writing the script for a self-fulfilling prophecy? It's a thought to take with you. Thanks for joining this explainer.